By the mid-2000s, Clark Rockefeller had built an unshakable life. He lived in Boston with his wife, Sandra Boss, a successful businesswoman, and their young daughter. He claimed to be a direct descendant of the Rockefellers, and for 30 years, nobody had ever asked him for proof. But his real name was Christian Karl Gerhartsreiter. He was a German immigrant who had come to the US as a teenager with almost nothing. Every identity he had ever used in America was invented. So how does a German immigrant with no money and no credentials convince an American high society he's a Rockefeller for 3 decades? Performance was the entire trick. He wore the right clothes, he name-dropped the right art collection, and he went to the right clubs. Once someone saw this version of him, nobody ever asked for proof. So you'd probably assume he had forged papers, but he didn't really need them. A performance is harder to check than a passport, because once everyone in the room decides a man is rich, the evidence stops mattering. He spent the 1980s recycling through fake names, and by the mid-90s he was Clark Rockefeller, married to Sandra Boss, who had never thought to run a background check on him. By 2008, she divorced him and won custody of their daughter. And at a supervised visit in Boston, he grabbed the girl and ran. The FBI launched a national manhunt. That was when investigators went back to his first year in America. And in 1985, he'd been a tenant in the backyard cottage of John and Linda Sohus in California. Both of them disappeared that year, and John's body was found buried in the yard in 1994. In 2013, Gerhartsreiter was convicted of his murder. So what can we actually learn from this? It's actually pretty simple, and it comes down to basic psychology. Gerhartsreiter couldn't stand being himself. Becoming someone else was worth everything to him, including a body in a California backyard. We can be so ashamed of who we started as that we'll do almost anything to be someone else. That's human nature. I write crime thrillers based on psychology and real cases just like this. If that sounds interesting to you, my first one's in my bio. Check it out.